Welcome to the Health and Wealth Power Hour, the podcast that provides you with the knowledge and insights you need to achieve physical, mental, and financial well-being. I'm your host, Harlan Pickett, a business consultant who's passionate about helping people achieve a more balanced and healthier life. Each week, we'll deep dive into topics related to health and wealth, including retirement income planning, innovative healthcare solutions, alternative funded health plans, and specific actions individuals and business owners can take to gain control of their finances, have access to affordable quality health care, and achieve peace of mind. We'll also be joined by innovative experts who will share their knowledge and insights on prevalent topics. So, whether you're looking to grow your wealth or improve your health, you've come to the right place. Get ready to be informed, inspired, and empowered. Let's get started. All right, gang, welcome to another exciting episode of the Health and Wealth Power Hour. I am your host, Harlan Pickett. Thank you so much for joining with us today. Are you a small business owner? I am. I got two companies. Man, it's fun. No, never any problems here. Everything runs so smooth, never any chaos. Every day is all butterflies and rainbows. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah, I'm lying. I'm lying. Chaos, craziness. You never know what's going to happen next when you're a small business owner. Well, today we're going to have some very valuable insights for you. We have a super incredible special guest for you. If you're a small business owner, you do not want to miss out on this valuable information. It can change the dynamic of your business. It can change the direction of your business. And most of all, it can actually start providing you the peace of mind that you need to run that business in a better way. Let's get away from that stress. Let's start bringing things together. Let's beat down the chaos and let's make things run better. Today, we are super excited to have Kerry-Ann Powell, founder. I'm going to try not to destroy this. Trafalgar Strategies. Did I get it right, Kerry-Ann?
Got it perfectly right, Harlan.
All right, great. Hey, thank you. Welcome aboard the Health and Wealth Power Hour and taking time out of your busy day to share some of these strategies with us.
Hey, I am so happy to be here. Really, what a joy.
Thank you so much. So the very first thing I want to get into, you started this business. You here you are, you're going along, you're the small business owner. You kind of been doing things on your own. Not too bad. You've been kind of getting around most of this stuff. A few things are thrown at you. You go along. Then you make the dreaded mistake. You hire an employee. I'm going to tell you, one of the greatest things you can do is get big enough to hire an employee. And one of the most horrible things you can do is get big enough to hire an employee. So let's just talk about that small business progression that happens and the chaos that's inherent in that and some of the strategies folks can do to really address that.
Yeah, totally, Harlan. You're absolutely right. You know, there's four main sorts of, and I just call them, I really just call them symptoms of chaos because they're not the actual chaos, even though we all feel like this is the chaos. Definitely one of them is around building that team, whether the person has built a team, it was going well, and somehow it's not going that smoothly anymore, or you're having a difficult time building the strong teams. That's definitely one of the symptoms of chaos. And as you mentioned, you know, it's such an important step for a business because, you know, you start looking at the United States, and I don't remember what the statistics are, but it's a high percentage of small businesses actually are not employer firms, meaning that they don't have employees, which to me, I don't understand how they are thriving and surviving. But, you know, the reality is, so when someone does decide, okay, I'm going to get my first employee, I'm going to hire my second employee, it can be such a great symbol and sort of marker of growth in the business. But it can also, if you don't do it right, it can also be a huge challenge. And one of the reasons why is because we sometimes hire people, and I've noticed with many small and medium-sized companies, they hire based on personality. It's sort of like, oh yeah, cousin Susie knows how to do social media, so let's just bring her in, or Uncle Bob's really good at accounting, so let's bring him in. And so they build this hodgepodge of people in your team. And then when it's time to really assess and really kind of move to the next level in the company, you have this sort of motley crew of people that you didn't actually sit down and look at and say, what does the business really need? What qualifications does this particular role truly need? What type of personality type is best for that role? And are we putting that person in the right seat on the right boss on the right bus? But so then you sort of build this hodgepodge. Now you have to look back and you're like, the team isn't running efficiently. Why? Because, well, you kind of built it a little weird. So now you have to go back and kind of see, okay, you're like, well, I can't hire. Many businesses are like, well, I can't fire my whole team. No, not about that. You're not burning down the built business, but you are needing to assess what's happening in the business currently. And I always like to say one way to do that, instead of deciding, oh, I'm going to burn the whole thing down and start anew, is to kind of look at it like business 1.0 and business 2.0. Business 1.0 is your current business. It's running, doing its limp along for whatever the chaos that's happening in it. And then you're looking at, and you're taking some time as the owner of the business to look at business 2.0. What do I need today? And if I didn't have anyone working for me, what would I need to build in this company now? You fix that, then you begin to look at your current team and say, Miss Marge over there, who's been with the company for 10 years, but she's really not suited for customer service, how about we maybe uptrain her to do better customer service, or retrain, reskill to put her into accounting. So you'd want to kind of make these kinds of transitions in a way that allows you to save your team, but in the end, not have to blow things up, But your team, if your team is not positioned correctly, if they're not sitting in the right seat and on the proper bus, doing what they need to be doing, that can be a huge chaotic problem, a symptom of chaos in the business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of times, and I know we went through this as well at Eagle Care, is when we hired, we kind of had one thought of the way we were going to structure everything and what we were going to do and jobs that people were going to have. Your responsibilities are going to be X, and your responsibilities are going to be Z, and your responsibilities are going to be A. But as time went by, the way that we approached business and things that we did changed. We didn't go wholesale and change everything we were doing, but we changed enough that the roles that we had people in were very different than what we hired them for. So we certainly felt some of those pains you're talking about, because, here's Mama Joe over here that's doing this job. And all of a sudden Mama Joe has no experience whatsoever, because that's not what we hired her for. We didn't need, say, a full-time accountant. Now we do.
Now we do.
But what if you have no one on your staff that has those skills? Then you have to train up someone there, or you're going to have to find one anyway, because it doesn't change your need, right?
Exactly, Harlan. That's the bottom line. A lot of times, and again, you know what, I love my team, and I really know, I love it when I see companies that have a good relationship with their team. At the same time, the baby is the business. Yeah. So the baby, the business has to be the thing that we're taking care of, so that we can generate the value coming out of the business, so that it can create the value for, the owner, the employees, the customers. Because if the baby dies, then none of this happens. So if you have, it's difficult, and Harlan, I'm not minimizing the difficulty or the awkwardness or the difficulty in that conversation that you need to have, or whatever the decisions you have to make. But that's what a leader does. They make the hard decisions, right?
That's right.
So if you find that you are in a situation like that, it's really important to nip that in the bud real fast, real quick, because what ends up happening is, okay, yes, it's not serving the business if you have someone sitting in a seat that they're not qualified for, or if their temperament isn't good for that role. But you also are mimicking back to other employees that it's okay to not be fully qualified for this role, or it's okay to sort of be halving it, and you don't want to create a culture like that. So even if you hire more people, but so-and-so isn't doing a good job, no matter for whatever reason it is, it could be because when you hired them, they were good at what they did, but you expanded the role. You have to think about also how that's affecting the other employees and the culture of the business.
That is a great point because, if you had, there you go, you got Mama Joe again that you brought in here, and you promised her, hey, as we grow, you're going to grow with us. You're going to be a leader. You're going to be a manager. You're going to be a director. You're going to do all these things. We have great plans for this. Well, if she ends up, or he ends up over at this particular job, and now the folks that he or she is supervising know far more about that than they do, it can be a recipe for disaster, especially when they know the only reason that you're there is because you were here from the beginning, or your family, and I'm not family, and there goes the divide. Right now, chaos is just chaos breeds into that. You don't have a happy workplace. It's not what you really had envisioned to begin with.
Exactly. Point check.
And I think it's very easy to fall into that because
as
small business owners, who do we want to hire first, right? Family, people we know, people we love and trust. Trust is a big deal when you start hiring people. And I don't know too many folks that just started hiring without hiring someone they know some way first. They didn't just, go out there on Indeed and find their very first employee and hope for the best.
Right. Exactly. And, the thing is, and that's where you start going, to again, if it's early days, you definitely want to be thinking about, particularly if you're thinking about hiring, adding new team members, right? You want to definitely be thinking about, what does this position really require? What type of temperament does it require? And when you're beginning to, and also too, you always want to be hiring people that are self-motivated. Self-motivated, because you can train someone. Truth be told, you don't have to go and recruit from Harvard to get a good employee, but you can't, if you hire someone that's not self-motivated, it's a recipe for disaster. Get people that are self-motivated, that are pulling you along, where you'd be like, wait, hold up, right? So that as the business scales and as the business grows, you have people who are excited to move things forward. The other thing you want to be thinking about is around the culture of the organization. You do not want to create toxicity in the company. And so even if your best salesperson who's bringing in the top dollars, if that person is not operating under the values at which you want your business to operate, meaning the cultural values of your company, even if that person is at the top best salesperson, you got to let them go, because you're basically creating a cancer in your company that in the end, you're stifling all of the other kinds of all the other people in your company being willing to operate at their highest peak. Because if you are stifling that by allowing someone to behave poorly, then you're fostering a negative work environment, and people will stop performing well.
Well, and it just makes sense, right? I don't care how good that performer is or how much they're bringing into your company. That makes it very difficult, right? It makes it very difficult. And I have literally seen people say, well, if it wasn't for him, you wouldn't have a job. So shut up and do what he told you to do, or just suck it up. I know he's a fill in the blank. I know he's, but you're going to have to, we've all got to, hey, I'm the owner of the company and I got to listen to it, because we wouldn't have a company without him. He is just that good. What's the price of your soul? I mean, come on. What is the price of your soul at this case? You're selling that. Is it really your company anymore? Quite honestly, it's not. It is that person's company now.
Yes, it is. It really, really is. And you know what? Again, it goes back to, there are some things you can train people to do. So here's the thing. Say you have to, part ways, because it doesn't mean that just because that person is behaving poorly, it doesn't mean you can't lead well. I often say about leadership, there's 3 prongs. It's leading oneself, it's leading one's team, and it's leading one's organization. Just because someone is a cancer in your company doesn't mean you can't get that person to change behavior and to come on board, because there are many ways you can do that. But I think a lot of business owners feel very worried that if they even approach it, then the person's going to walk. Okay, fine, let them walk. Because in the end, what's going to happen is you're going to clean out something really bad out of the company, and then you then have an open space to be able to build up someone else in the company who might even be better off, better than that person, if you gave them the tools and the training and the opportunity.
No, I agree with that. I think there's so many times we live in the now, and we'll put up with a lot because we're living in the now and because there's some level of success, especially if you haven't had that success before, right?
Right.
As entrepreneurs, we fail. There's sometimes we succeed. And then I think this is one of the reasons right here that you said, why there's so many small businesses not hiring employees, because we succeeded and we were
Yeah.
happy and we were
Mhm.
satisfied and we were content with right there. We could have made a bigger impact. We could have made a more important impact, but we were satisfied with where we are and we were afraid to do anything different. If I add one more person or if I do something else, what's going to happen then? What if I fail?
Yeah.
Well, you've already failed a bunch of times. Just because you succeeded this time, you've got the roadmap now. Just keep on pushing, keep on going. You can do it. But I think we just get content, Kerry-Ann. Maybe I'm wrong there, but I think people
No,
just get.
Harlan, you're right. It's an issue of contentment but it's an issue of contentment that is buttressed by fear. Because if it was truly contentment, then you would truly be happy. But it's not that like, I don't want to rock the boat. I finally made it here. I'm going to leave it there. That's really more fear, but it feels like contentment because but what's the anecdote to that, or antidote to that, is by having a clear vision of what you want in the business. When companies come to us, we often just sort of, okay, give it to us. What's the true vision of the company? And also, what is your life vision? So, because if you can have a clear vision of what you want as an individual, the owner of the company, and also a clear vision of how you want to grow the business. When I say vision, I mean there's three components to this, okay? They're the values that you hold important in the company. That's one component of the business vision. There's the purpose of the company. So I like to think of the purpose as a very short, pithy statement that really distills down what it is you do. So for instance, in our company, our purpose is we're in the business of helping businesses thrive. It's that simple, but it's very core and it's distilled. So if you can come up with what that statement is for you, what are you really in the business of doing? And don't start getting all boring and say, well, we help people develop a high potential of health and blah, blah, blah. Like, be really succinct, but powerful. And like the how, what exactly is it that you do? And that might take some time, where you really think about it and you sit down with your team and you do the whole thing. And then the third component of having a vision is you need to have a core strategic goal. What is a core strategic goal? A core strategic goal is a goal that's 15 years in the future. How do you see the business 15 years in the future, 20 years in the future? It's that goal. Ever heard the term BHAG? I think it's always in the parlance of business, big, hairy, audacious goal. That's what your core strategic goal is. So if you can have a strong vision of where you want your company to be in the next 15, 20. When I say that, I don't mean it fluffy and imaginary. I mean, how much revenue do you want to be bringing in? What regions are you going to be working in? What countries are you working in? How many products are you going to be selling? What have you evolved into? Are you the premier top number one in your industry? That kind of stuff, real hardcore statements. And once you have that vision, which includes those three elements, the values, the purpose, and your core strategic goal, then you have something to move towards. Therefore, you're like, well, what would it take for me to get there in 15 years? Well, I can't be sitting right here on my laurels. I gotta keep building. I gotta keep innovating. I gotta keep optimizing. We gotta keep building the team. That way you're not sitting on your laurels. And that fear is always gonna be there. Oh my goodness. But it's a compelling vision that draws you forward and allows you to get rid of your fear.
Yeah, there is no doubt fear plays a huge part in all of that. I think one of the things you brought up there was that long-term goal.
Yeah.
And in talking to business owners for years now and whether it's networking with them, sitting down, helping them with their benefits, whatever it is.
Yeah.
There is a distinct line between those you're talking to that are planning out 3 months, sometimes just 3 weeks, 6 months, and quite honestly, can't even think about what it would look like a year from now.
Yeah.
Okay. And those that don't even really want to talk about the next 3 months or 6 months, They want to talk about things in years, in decades, in chunks. And their vision is just so different. And it doesn't mean they don't care about the short term. It means that when they're thinking of a strategy and they're thinking of things they're going to do, they're actually thinking, well, what impact will this have on my business from 5 years from now? If we decide to do this right now, what's that going to look like in 5 years?
Yeah.
Not if we do this right now, what's that going to look like in 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Very different mindset. And it is an interesting thing to when you talk to folks, how different that is, and explaining, especially to smaller business people who really, this is kind of their first foray into it, how important it is to have that long-term goal, just like you spoke about. You've got to.
Harlan, you can't build it without that.
No.
You can't build it without that. And it's not to say there's a couple, I'm so glad you mentioned that, sort of like this. It's a very clear line. And I agree. I've noticed that too. And I want to be clear. You don't have to want to build a massive company.
Right.
It's okay if you want to stay small. It's okay, but you still have to have a plan for what that looks like for you.
You really do.
So this is not an issue of us saying everyone needs to be a growth company and everyone needs to scale and blah, blah, blah. But if everyone needs to have a plan for how that's going to work. And when you have a plan, when you have a core strategic goal, and what I do with my clients when I'm working them through a strategic plan, we start with the top and we just go all the way down to the point where it is every executionary point of a day-to-day behaviors within the company all lead back up to the top. So it's almost like if you imagine a funnel, yes? The top layer of the funnel is that core strategic goal. Then we move into your annual goals, 1, 2, and 3 years. I don't go any further than 3 years after you have your core strategic goal. Then once you look at your 1 year, then you're starting to say, okay, what are the objectives or the focus areas? I call them focus areas and objectives, your FAOs. What are those things that we need to be focusing on that would fall in line with your 1 year goal? And once you have those in place, then what are the tactics that you're going to put into place? Now you have something built in. Then you start looking at your quarterlies. Then you start looking at your monthlies. Then you start looking at your weeklies, and you're doing your KPIs, your metrics, the things you're measuring on a daily basis. Therefore, here's a problem with a lot of business owners where they feel like, they don't really feel like they've been able to develop a team that's really moving together in sync and in flow. A part of it is because people need to have a vision to work towards. Now, there's a big myth out there talking about people are lazy and people don't want to work. That is hogwash and is a lie. The reality is, though, people need to be able to have something, a vision, a purpose that is bigger than themselves. And it doesn't have to be some grandiose thing where you're going to save the world and save cancer, cure cancer or whatever the thing is. Something very simple, but a vision that you, the owner, you, the business leader, is projecting out. That saying, this is what we're about in this business, and this is what we're trying to hit in the next 15 years. When people can buy into that, oh my goodness, their day-to-day activities are now connected to a big goal, a big vision. And that is where you start seeing people come up with brilliant ideas. You see people saying, hey, what do we do this? How about we do this? I think we should do this. And you're not having to push people. People are pulling you. And that's a good time to be. That's a good place to be.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. You also, and I'm sure you've run into this. You've got people that, such as ourselves, that are entrepreneurs. You got people that want to do something, want to start something, want to lead something. And you got other people that say, oh, no, I'm not like that. I just want to be part of something. Mm-hmm. Well, let me tell you, everyone wants to be a part of something, even those of us that are leaders, but we want to be a part of something and we want to lead that change. We cannot do that without the folks behind us helping us make that change. Exactly. And so even if you want to be part of that, and I've even had people say, you know what, I promise you, I'm one of these. I can never work for someone again. I can never work for someone again. And you know why I say that? Because my past has not been working for someone who had that kind of vision and gave me the feeling of being part of something bigger.
Yes, it's true.
And in corporate America, that's typically what you get. You're just a cog. You're just, why are people lazy and don't want to work? Because you didn't give them anything to do to begin with.
No vision. I mean,
no vision.
The
No
scripture
way to
says,
make
without
anything
vision, the
happen.
people will perish. I mean, this is not something, this is a whether not you believe in the Bible or not, the reality is these are traditional viewpoints that have carried humanity forever. And it doesn't, in this particular thought process, the idea of without a vision, the people will perish, it's not just something that sort of comes only in Christianity. It mimics itself through all the religious traditions around the globe. So there's a reality here. If there is no vision, you can't get people to operate at their highest peak. People will come to work and do their jobs as long as you pay them. But I mean, and that's nothing bad. I mean, making a living is is an honorable thing. But oh my goodness, have you seen people who have bought into something? That's a different kind of level of
They are.
commitment, a different kind of level of high standards. It's a different kind of level of work. And if you can inspire people to do that, then do that. But the issue is you have to first, what I say, lead yourself. So if you can't get yourself up and at 'em and excited about the vision of your business, then there is no way anyone is going to be excited about your business more than you.
Absolutely. And I'm going to bring this around. And I know a number of you out there that listen to this are in the benefits industry. You're in my industry. You are out there working with businesses. You are selling insurance, or you're putting together plans. I want you to think about this. If you're not excited about what you do, if you don't believe that you're making real change by continuing to re-enroll people in the same old insurance plan every year, and they keep getting this 6, 8, 10, 12, 15% increase, and you feel like you're doing an outstanding job by getting the insurance company to knock that 15 down to 10 or 12. If that's what your job is, and you're wondering why you feel like you're never moving anywhere, that's because you're not on mission. You're not on the mission we were truly here to put on. The good Lord wants you to make an impact in people's lives in a positive way, and that ain't it, folks. You need to get off of that treadmill of doing the same old thing and look at ways that we can actually make an impact. Bring advice, bring advisement to these companies, help them change the way that they're accessing healthcare, help their employees be happier, help their employees be healthier, help those companies make a huge impact on their bottom line by having true access to healthcare. That's what we do every single day. And I challenge you to make that same difference. That's exactly what you're talking about here, Kerry-Ann.
Yeah.
I got to bring it into my industry because we have a huge problem here with people just riding that treadmill.
Harlan, I'm so glad you said that because, and I get it here. And I don't want the person who's listened to this think that somehow we are up in la la land and we don't get it, right? But the reality is you're not just selling insurance, okay? Because you're making an impact on other people's lives. And I think a large part of what it's difficult because if you're in the day-to-day grind of the business, sometimes you can forget what it is that how you're actually impacting people. But if you can take a step back, and that's why I always recommend pause, if you are so far in the business that you spend your whole day working in the business that you cannot be above the ground being strategic, it's a problem because you're not able to think in the higher levels of strategy, in the higher levels of what you're doing. But if you can think about what is it that you actually are doing, how you are truly impacting the lives of the people that are going to be benefiting from your products that are being sold into your products, those kinds of things, then because once you start thinking about it on a deeper level, then you begin to, unless you are selling something that is harmful to people, then there's a value in everything that we're selling. If you think about just a lollipop, okay, which I guess you could probably say that's probably harmful because it's sugar and all that kind of stuff. But the joy a kid gets by, just the moment a kid gets their lollipop and they stick it in their mouth and their eyes and they're running on the place and there's red lips and there's sticky fingers and there's memories that are created. It's a part of you doing a business is being able to say, yeah, here's how I'm making an impact. And this is the standard by which we're going to do that. Because a lot of it is creating a leveling up the standard that you operate in as the owner. Your employees begin to get that, and therefore you're operating differently. The companies that thrive, that stay for a long time, that have staying power, they have a clear system a clear image, a vision of what they want to be, and they're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the other things I'll tell you that you get out of when you do that, and that is actually you get to be part of a strategy. Most of the folks in our industry right now, it's a year to year thing. I'm going to get you on, go ahead and get you on this plan this year. We're going to go ahead and take this 12% increase. And next year, hopefully it'll be better. So what strategy do you put in place?
Right, exactly.
I hope things are better. But if they're not,
strategy.
we'll just switch companies to another company, and then we'll hopefully that'll be better.
Yes.
So what strategies, what long-term strategies you put in place here? You put in none. Now, I'm going to be honest. Here's a big part of this, Kerry-Ann. It's hard work. It's hard work. You're no longer just plug and play. You've actually got to go out and work and build things and learn stuff and stay up with the industry and have knowledge and know how all this stuff works. You've got to know how to put the healthcare supply chain together and do the right thing for the business. Oh my gosh, you got to ask them questions. What a crazy idea. Let's ask them
concept.
That's right. But it's all the same things that we're saying we need to do with our own business, right? It's really nothing different. It's the same thing, because if you were acting like a true advisor to that, it's the same thing you do with a business owner.
Yes. Yeah.
There is no way that you can help a business without finding out about that business and finding out where the problems are to begin with. And there's no way as an advisor in this industry, you can find out how to fix things and make things better without asking questions and finding out what's going on.
Exactly, Harlan. And I think that's the thing, we're all human and we all want to take, easy street a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, so no shame there if that's kind of where you are, but that's living at a very low level. It's not who we really are created to be.
That's correct.
And I want to encourage someone. So this is not a shame issue, but it is calling you forth to a higher place, to your higher self. You are, we are created to operate at our peak. And so the question is, how do we operate at our peak? First, we have to have a clear vision of what we want our lives to be. What does life look like for you? Because the business vision needs to align with your life plan. So if you haven't sat down and thought about, particularly if, obviously you're a business owner, you're still working in the business. This is a different situation if, you're outside of the business now and you've hired professional CEOs to be in there. But if you're still working in the business somehow, even if it's just at the chairman of the board stage, your life plan, how you want to see your life moving forward, has to align with the business vision in a way that makes sense. And look, if there's no alignment, what do we tweak? We don't tweak the life we plan. We tweak the business, because in the end, your life plan comes from the innards. Okay, all right. So once you sort of think about this, you begin to have a bigger vision already. And then you kind of say, okay, but really the truth, what do I truly want to build here? What do I want to build here? And who am I as a business owner? Who am I as a leader? Who am I? And looky here, look, as an entrepreneur, there are many personality types that are entrepreneurial. Okay. So everyone's an entrepreneur if you own your business, right? However, some people, personality types are entrepreneurial. Others are more managerial. Others are more sustainable. They sustain the business. So some people are like more the star. They sort of point me where I need to show up, and then others are going to do the background. So here's the thing around this. You kind of figure out what your personality type is, what's your core motivation in being a business. If you're an entrepreneurial as an entrepreneur, meaning you like to take risks, you like to build things and then move on and that kind of thing, then you need to bring someone on board who's more of the star and more of the manager. So you want those two personalities to balance out your entrepreneurial style of being, so that when you've now kind of figured something out and you've done the thing and you want to go on and start the next thing, you have people that are there to sustain it, and people can be the sort of the face of it. And so, but if you're more of the star person, but you're more a star person or a manager person, you bring someone on board that's more entrepreneurial. Okay. So a part of this is just recognizing, there's a quote a proverb that I always say, it's an African proverb. I don't know who said it. And it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. So you need people. If you want to have some lasting legacy and some long-term last, like your business to last, you do need to have people that are surrounding you that are different than you, operate differently than you, that can bring the whole thing to fruition. But you cannot, if you're the core, if you're the owner, if you're the founder, you have to first have a high standard. So I invite you to bring yourself up to your highest level and say, no, this is who I am. I don't operate subpar. Maybe I did for the past couple of years, but right now I want to be at a certain level. Get there, create a big vision, and I promise you, people will follow you.
Absolutely. And I think that you made some very, very good points there. And most entrepreneurs, if they're not going to be satisfied, right? They're not going to be completely satisfied. They're going to need help because they're not going to fill all of those roles. You're just not going to. I promise I am not the organization guy. I got some ideas and I'm going to go and I have no problem talking. Have y'all ever noticed? I have no problem talking. I have no problem talking. I have no problem getting up on stage. No problem being the face, all of that kind of stuff. But when it gets time to organize stuff, I'm all over the place.
Exactly.
Okay. There's a reason why I don't let you see my background. I don't let you see my desk. Okay. I got this nice, beautiful placard here so no one can see that. But the
Exactly.
whole dynamic of my business changed whenever my wife came to work for me. Why? Okay, let me change that. When she came aboard, I became her employee then, right? But that's neither here.
Right, exactly.
But the bottom line is that she is Mrs. Organization. She keeps me on track. She introduces things like calendars and ways for people to set appointments that way. I had the old book where I wrote stuff in and, I was old school with everything. She moved us to a more electronic and much more efficient way of looking at things, of dealing with things. We separated out emails to different things. We created emails that said things like customer service at here, info at here, before they all came to me. And I was wondering why I was buried in everything and how I missed this one for this or that. They're just little bitty things like that I'm really not the guy to think about those. I am more big picture. I'm more, let's go get her done. I'm more, let's sell some stuff. Let's go on. Let's go. But I had went as far as I could in growing by myself. I understood those limitations. Thank the Lord. I understood those limitations. Exactly. Someone that helped me take those next steps.
Exactly. And I'm telling you, people often, I find it very interesting how people, a part of it is our egos, a part of it is our insecurities. This like, well, I'm the only one that could really do it. Yeah, no, not really. Not really at all. You're not that special. God bless you, but you're not. So the thing is, if you, and what people often don't realize is that, our personality types, I'm sure if your wife had to go on stage and do all the stuff that you're doing, she probably could, but it takes way more stuff within her to get her up on that stage and to do the thing, right? And so like most people can do a thing, but it's more how much energy and power load does it take for you to be able to do the thing? There are some people that are way, like, for them, they could close their eyes and manage, and organize a system in your business and it not be a thing. Whereas you could probably do it if you were forced to do it, but it would take all this energy and time. But that is what we're talking about. You want to lean into, bring leaders into your company that for them, the things that make you like say, okay, here I gotta do it. Let me have it, steely up and do it. They can do those things with their eyes closed without even breathing because they love it. And so that is what we talk about when we talk about scaling together.
Right.
It's finding out all of the strengths that each person has. What is not just the skills and the innate skills that they have and the skills they've learned, but their temperament. That is when I say, temperament weighs a lot. Just because someone is good at sales, their temperament makes you decide if they're good at sales long term. Because in the end, are they going to do it and be happy about it and light about it and just sort of roll off of them, as opposed to this, yeah, I can get it done. I'll focus, I'll get it done. That's what you're trying to balance out that weight. And once you get people who are fitting into the puzzle, then you'll see your business just smoothly run, very lovely if you have good people in there. But again, you have to definitely be hiring people who are self-motivated and also people who are bought into the vision of the company and have a particular passion towards it, so that it's like, they're moving along. And you also talked about this idea of people like, oh, well, I got it to here and I'm going to just sort of keep it here. Look, running a business and you didn't feel very good, sort of like when you're in corporate, sort of a cog in the wheel thing. Here's the thing. The beautiful thing about small and medium-sized companies is that, a company is sort of a microcosm of society. But the good thing about a small and medium-sized company is that you have more control over creating the type of the culture within that company. There are people who have skills that they want to express out there in a place that would value their skills. And there are people that want to be able to make a living expressing their skills. If you can create a company where people can express their skills, be compensated for it, be appreciated for it, be rewarded for it in a place that's safe and think about it. That's you building something. And so that's the beauty of a small and medium-sized company, where people don't have to feel like a cog in the wheel. People can work hard, be able to support their families, provide for their kids, and also express their giftings in a way, in a place that rewards them, not just financially, but rewards them by saying, yeah, what you got, oh my gosh, thank God you are here. We are so glad you are here. Okay. And that is all people really ever want.
I agree with that. Absolutely. I agree with that. But let's shift gears just a little bit, because it's just a small change, but it's a change. And that's what I want to talk about is change, because change is one of the most terrifying words in the vocabulary. You open up change and there's like a skull and crossbones and spooky little stuff all over there, because change scares the tar out of folks, right? It really does. And change doesn't have to be scary, but I think there's just something built into many, many people when they hear that word. Hey, we're going to make some changes. Hey, we're going to mix things up. Hey, we're going to go in a different direction. That's a whole different one. Sometimes you get that one. That's bad. But there's change, and that is inherently terrifying for people. But I learned a saying that I heard somebody say this, and I love this. Feel free to steal it if you ever find a reason to. The least likely outcome is status quo. Change is inevitable.
Yes.
It's going to happen.
Yes,
are you
absolutely.
going to embrace it? Are you going to be run over by it? But the least likely outcome is the status quo. Things are not going to stay the same no matter what happens. But how are you going to deal with change?
Yeah. I like to think about, when I think about change, as you said, change is definitely the inevitable thing that's going to happen. It's the one thing that we can count on, as they often say. So if you know that to be true, and your business is going to change, things are going to change. Yes. We just lost someone in our company. She's dealing with some illness, and so she has to now walk away from the business. And she was a core team member, a key team member. And I'm observing that even right now, as I sort of see how we're trying to shift things. And, obviously we're going to replace the role and that kind of thing. But wow, it just shifts change. And we couldn't have predicted that change. We had, big plans for her, and she had big plans. But yet now here we are having to adjust to change. There's some things in business that you don't have a choice. You can't predict, and you can't mitigate for it.
Right.
Like a key employee getting sick. Okay. It is what it is. However, what you don't want to have happen is the natural process of change to happen, and then you're not directing that change. Because if it's going to change, your business is going to go somewhere. Do you want to be the one telling it where it's going to go? And that's where I think, there's sort of 8 things that we always talk about with our clients, and we focus in on. One of them is we call it optimization and innovation. We put them, it's a ring that we have sort of a methodology, and it's one of the rings of the 8 rings. And we put optimization and innovation together in the same ring. And people are always like, either people say, well, there's not the same, aren't they the same words? No, they're not. And then people who know that they're the opposite words are like, well, how can you have optimization and innovation in the same sentence? And here's what I want to say about that. Optimization, just so we're clear about this, right? Optimization is you looking at a particular thing that's happening in your business and having systems and processes in place that make that particular thing that's operating in your business better. So if you have a thing where, the way that you fulfill your client's work, you optimize that process as best you can each year so that it is like butter, okay? Innovation is when you're bringing new things into the business. So to the point where you are creating new systems, new products, anything that's new into the business. So optimization is about getting what is old in the business operating at peak performance. Innovation is bringing in new. You could see where there could be some conflict. Yes. What are our priorities? Do you want to spend the time optimizing this particular system, or do you want to bring something new into the business? Okay. But that's not the conversation we're having today. The conversation we're having today is around change. If you manage change, that means, so a lot of small and medium-sized businesses feel like, well, we're like the kings of innovation because, well, we can pivot much bigger, much faster than the big dogs. And that's true. We are really the hotbed of innovation. That's one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of small businesses, because I feel like we are really the capacity to be able to innovate rests with small and medium-sized companies. At the same time, we don't want to be innovating all willy-nilly just because you have a necessity. You want to have a system and a process in place that decides how you innovate. So if you think of innovation and like the type of innovator you are, think of it sort of like a bell curve, okay? You want to be at the top of the bell curve, but not like on the cutting edge of the top of the you want to be right behind the leading edge people, because you see, the leading edge people are getting the brunt of the risk of innovation. However, you need to be right behind them. You don't want to lag behind, talking about you became like a late adopter very far after that, where it's kind of like AI right now. I mean, even AI, we're in the early years of AI. So there might be some interesting things that are coming down the pipe, so you want to be right behind the people that are like leading the edge. And how do you do that? There's a couple of different ways. You can have sort of a group of people in your company that all they do is they meet once a month, and they are assessing what's innovative in your industry. And that's what they're doing. They're simply having conversations once, and you're giving them the time to do so, by the way. You're paying them. You're saying, okay, look, you got 2 hours per week to sort of do research on innovative things that are happening in the industry. And you guys are meeting once a month to talk about it and then bringing it back to the leadership, okay? That is one way to stay ahead of the game. So you're not you're not sort of, oh, wait, what happened? I didn't even know this thing was coming in the pike. You don't ever want to be like, oh, I didn't know this was coming down the pike, because guess what? Things are going to change all the time. You must always be aware of it. You can decide then how fast you want to go into it, but you definitely want to be thinking about that in your business, creating systems that allow for innovation. Larger companies, what they'll do is they will buy smaller companies that already done all the innovative work, and they just bring them into the business. I mean, you could theoretically do that as well as a small and medium-sized company, because you may have a company that's like 3 or 4 people that have an innovative tool within your industry, and you suck them in. Next thing you know, you're innovative. But the point that I'm saying is, things will change. You're not going to be in the same place you were last year or the year before that. The question is, where do you want to be? You have to have, this goes back, Harlan, to our vision. Where do you want to be, so that you can determine where that change is? You have more control that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And, remember, there are super dramatic examples of this. The story, of course, of Blockbuster and streaming and all of that. You look at the taxi world now with Uber, and those are huge disruptors.
Yeah.
It's not always that dramatic that
Right.
affects your business in a very dramatic way that can literally put you out of business because you failed to pivot, you failed to change. And most of the time, in my opinion, I believe that happens, Kerry-Ann, when you don't stay up with what's going on in your industry, when you feel like you've got it whipped. Man, I'll tell you what, we've got the best solution out there. Nothing's going to change that.
Yep.
The problem is the status quo is the least likely.
Least likely. And right now, I mean, if some of your listeners who have been in business for a really long time, things move a lot slower in the past. Right now, things move so fast. Things that were once 6 months ago are old. And so you have to perpetually be on top of things, knowing what's happening, and always being willing to be a student. And I really think, that's where a lot of times some business owners have a hard time. They don't want to listen to their employees. This goes back to, if you're hiring a self-motivated team, they're going to always be, and then, telling you, hey, let's do this. And sometimes business owners, if their emotions and their identity is connected to being the big boss, the leader, they feel like when their employees are saying, hey, let's do this, let's do that, they think that they're being confronted or saying that you're not good enough or whatever. Let that ego go, because I'm telling you, people, if you want to go far, go together. That means being able to respect what people are bringing to the table. And if people are interested in what's happening in your business, I mean, I'll never forget the other day when one of my team members said, we have this, once a month live that we do on LinkedIn, and we stream it to some of our other platforms as a way to build business in the company. And, it's a good thing. I'm glad we do it. And we've been, optimizing it as the months have gone on. And one of my team members said, hey, Kerry-Ann, can we have a meeting on Monday? I want to show you something. I said, yeah. And this guy, he created a whole entire website to promote this particular event that we do on a monthly basis. And I thought to myself, see, this is what I'm talking about. Yeah. People who are vested in your company are willing to say, hey, Kerry-Ann, if we're going to do this, we got to do this right. And I'm like, yes, you're absolutely right. And here we go. And so you got to want to be willing to not think that when people are saying to you, hey, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this, there's a better way to do it. There's a better way to do it. It's not confronting you. They're not saying that you are not doing it right. They're just saying, we're so excited about this business that we have some great ideas and we want to share them with you. And it is your role to lead yourself, lead your team, and lead your organization. If you're not leading well, it will show up in your team. If no one's coming to you with great ideas, you're not leading well. If you have to get your team, you're not leading well. This is your problem.
Hey, that is awesome. That is awesome right there. If you don't take away anything else from that right there, say it again.
If no one is coming to you saying, hey, let's do this, let's do that, you're not leading well. They're just coming to your job to get a paycheck. Yeah. You're not leading.
Right. You're not creating an environment where people feel comfortable or even care. Right. They don't feel comfortable coming to you, or they don't care. They're just, once again, they're getting that check. They're moving on to the next day and moving on to the next day. And sooner or later, guess what they're going to do? They're going to move on to the next job.
They're going to move to the next job, because it's okay. I know it's cool and trendy. You go on TikTok and you're like, oh, it's very cool. People just want to be like, I'm just getting a paycheck and I'm going home and whatever. But the reality is human nature has not changed. Human nature has not changed. And people really do. If they're spending 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week or whatever, doing this work, they want to feel like they're doing something that's worthwhile. Even if definitely people want work-life balance now and people don't want to be, not having a life outside of their jobs. But ultimately, though, they're spending the majority of their time working. As a result, people want to feel like it's something that's worthwhile. And if they're not getting it from you, guess what? They're going to go somewhere else. Period and done.
Absolutely. All right. I want you to talk just a minute here about your company and some of the services you guys bring. I've just about used up all the time I want to take out of your day. I know you got lots of people out there you still want to talk to. And I believe with what you have shared with the audience today is super important. And I really do believe in the mission that you guys have too. So please tell a little bit about your company, how folks can reach out to you, and also promote that audio event, because I'm a big LinkedIn audio guy. I do my own events on there as well.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, so our company, Trafalgar Strategies, we are a business consulting company, and, we primarily focus on small and medium-sized companies. So anything from 100 employees down, that's our sort of sweet spot. If you have 50 employees, that's kind of where we like to jive. And we really believe, I was talking to Harlan before we hopped on the show and pre-show. I said, I like to think of our company as sort of like, how running a business can feel like managing a chaotic tornado. Well, what we do is we help business owners really, run their businesses smoothly so they can thrive in business and also in life. So we do a lot of strategy work. We help business owners really take a step back and look and see, how can we grow the company in a strategic way? How can we ensure that we are executing in a strategic way? And how are we really being able to have bigger market share? And that's really what we're all about. And so, definitely you can find me. I hang out quite a bit on LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Kerry-Ann Powell. The company's name is Trafalgar Strategies. And also too, and I don't know if you mind, Harlan, but I do have a free gift. If people are having a hard time, if they're noticing that they are feeling a bit chaotic in their business and they just don't know what exactly is the real reason, I do have a little bit of book that people can download. It's at nobusinesschaos.com. You just put your name and email address in, download that, and spend some time looking at, its name of the book is The 8 True Culprits That Are Causing Chaos in Your Business. And you can go through and kind of see, oh, okay, here's what's really, really happening. Because oftentimes we think the chaos is one thing, but the real culprit is something much more sinister. So yeah, so reach out to me. I'm human. If you're like, hey, me and Harlan are good friends, I'm with Harlan's crew, say hello. I believe in real human connection. So don't just, follow and lurk around, but let me know. Say, hey, how you doing? Because I really do believe. And yeah, as I mentioned, we do this live on LinkedIn once a month, first Thursday of the month at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's called the Founders Check-In. And it's basically, we like to think of it as like a monthly dose of strategy. So people can come and just really, get a bit of dose and keep it moving.
Absolutely. And guys, go out. So if you're looking for Kerry-Ann, it's Kerry-Ann with a K, Kerryann Powell. Find her, connect with her on LinkedIn, follow her. That way you'll get updates on all of her events. If you want to kind of stalk her for a little while and see what she's doing, be one of them LinkedIn people, kind of like you're saying, kind of watching. That's cool. We all get those. It's all good. Then eventually you can reach out. I can tell you my thoughts, my honest God thoughts after sitting here and talking to you. I don't see how she can't help you. If you've got some chaos going on, I tell you, she's saying the right things. I think she'll help you do the right things. I am super happy that I was able to connect with you and have you on the show talking to the folks, because I think it's going to make a big impact in some business life out there.
Wow, Harlan, thank you. I'm so glad to hear that. And I just want to add some value. So I'm really glad that you had me here. This conversation has been so wonderful. So thanks so much.
You're very welcome. All right, gang. And so don't forget, my monthly room on LinkedIn is coming up. The next one is going to be October 31st, Halloween. It's going to be a scary one, really scary LinkedIn room that day. As usual, 11 a.m. Central Time on LinkedIn. It's going to be healthcare horror stories. That's right. The LinkedIn audio room will be healthcare horror stories. Whether you are a provider or you have been a patient and had some type of horror story, I've got one to share for you guys about craziness that happened with my dad. How about unexpectedly out of nowhere being told, hurry to the hospital and get a pacemaker put in with no explanation whatsoever. Yes, it happened. If you want to learn the rest of that horror story, then please listen in on the 31st of October, 11 a.m. Central Time. Look forward to seeing you there. Don't forget, we also have our weekly audio rooms Monday, the Kickstart, 11:30 a.m. Central Time, and on every Friday, the Wrap, at 10:30 a.m. Central Time, keeping you up to date with industry news. Had a great one just the other day. Lots of folks attended. Never, ever stop learning. It will help take you places that you never thought you would be. Thanks again, Kerry-Ann, for being with us.
Thanks, Harlan.